following is a paid advertisement program provided by Premier Investments and Wealth Management. An airing of the program is not to be considered an endorsement or recommendation. The opinions expressed are those of the hosts, guests and callers and not necessarily of KFXR or iHeartMedia. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Premier Investments and Wealth Management and LPL Financial do not provide tax advice. Please consult your tax professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. There is no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect against market risk. All performance referenced is historical and is not a guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal.
The views and opinions of this show are those of Premier Investments and Wealth Management, their guests alone, and do not reflect any other entities. The information in the following program should not be construed as an offer to sell and is not intended to replace the advice of a qualified tax advisor or legal counsel. Statements in this program do not reflect those of Premier Investments and Wealth Management, LPL Financial, or their affiliates. Hey there, and welcome to the Premier Investments and Wealth Management Financial Program. My name is Doug Wagner. I'll give you a little bit of direction on what to do in order to get ready for this program here in just a matter of moments. But before I go anywhere else, I need to introduce the guy behind this. He's an owner and wealth advisor at Premier Investments and Wealth Management with over 21 years of experience in the financial services industry. He's an accredited investment fiduciary. He is the big kahuna, Roger Abel.
Thank you again, Mr. Buffer.
Good to see you again. And we'll get to you here in a second. I just want to remind people, grab your phone, grab your tablet, grab your laptop, you're sitting at the desktop, grab the monitor. No, grab the keyboard. Type in premieriwm.com and your favorite website, favorite URL slot right there. It doesn't matter what you're using as far as a way to get into the internet. Just go to premieriwm.com, click on Get Started, and what you can get from there after you answer a couple of questions is something called a Premier Vision document. Really, this is a one-page My Financial Confidence Score. Are you ready for retirement? Are you ready for your kids' college education? Maybe you're saving for a dream purchase that you have in the future. You know what? Unless you have a financial plan, you don't know. And if you do have a financial plan, why not kick the tires on that thing? Get a second opinion. PremierIWM.com. Click on Get Started. Listen to the program right here on Talk Radio 1190 and 1190talkradio.com. Roger, I hope that you're doing well today. I want people to call as well to make an appointment with you. What's the phone number in order to do that?
You can reach us at 800-383-6590.
Football season has begun in earnest. It's ready. I mean, this is like that time of the year, man.
It's the best time of year.
I know.
Yeah, it came fast, too. Yeah. I mean, really fast. But, you know, college football, NFL. I used to be a big college fan. I still really enjoy college football, but I'm an NFL guy now.
Yeah. I don't know.
I really am.
The college, I'm kind of a purist for it, but yeah, we'll see. I like the NFL too. Everybody's got their teams, and you live and die with them. But I don't know. It's just much more fun to play the EA College Football 25 than it is the NFL.
Oh, I don't know. You know what? Here's what happens. I wasn't into NFL till I started managing a team.
Yeah. Oh, a fantasy team.
Fantasy team.
Okay.
And I got my two favorite players this year.
Okay. Congratulations.
CeeDee Lamb.
What's that?
CeeDee Lamb.
Oh, okay.
And Deebo Samuel.
Oh, stop it.
And I lean a little more towards Deebo. I hate, for the Dallas people. I really like CD, but
yeah,
something about watching Deebo Samuel run the ball and catch.
Yeah.
And maybe we talked about this on a previous show. I talked about it with Elias on the podcast.
That's what it was.
I thought he's a lot bigger. He's only 6 foot, 215 pounds, but he looks like he's a lot bigger than that.
You know, it's
he's
funny.
A wrecking ball.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of people, they present a lot bigger when they get there, and that's one of the most informative things is that when you get to, it's one thing to see the stat sheet, right? But then it's the other thing to see them matched up against somebody, so you've got a good yardstick. And how they match up against everybody.
So my weekends are full now.
Yeah, that's good. And the nice thing about it, too, is that, here at the beginning, we're just going to ease back into it. We've got some listener questions to answer this time around in the program. So that way there's not too much heavy thinking for me. Thank you.
Well, and one other thing we should let all the listeners know, if you have a question you want answered on air, they can go to premieriwm.com or call us at 800-383-6590. We'll ask your question on the air.
Good point. Like the first question from listener Margarita. Yum. She asks, when should I take my Social Security benefit? Are my options only age 62 or full retirement age?
Well, that's a loaded question right there.
Yeah, the answer is no.
Yeah,
Your options are not only that.
Yeah, so there's over 300 ways to claim Social Security. If I had a crystal ball and I knew exactly when somebody would pass away, I could show somebody how to maximize a benefit.
Right.
Outside of that, it's really hard. So a couple things you have to look at your own personal financial situation.
Okay.
And figure out how much income do I need? What other assets do I have? And it's really the full combination in a financial plan. This is a pretty critical component of it. And Margarita, it depends on whether you're single, whether you're married, depends on what your spouse's benefit is, maybe an ex-spouse. There's so many ways to claim. But let's talk about a little bit before what your options are.
Okay.
You can file at 62 or anytime thereafter. Okay. Each year you wait, the larger your benefit gets.
It maxes out at 100% though, right?
Well, 100% is your full retirement age.
Okay.
So depends on when you were born, what year, but let's just use 66 years old as full retirement age. If you wait, after that, it increases 8% a year.
Really?
At age 70, you have to take it.
But you can get over 100% of what you put in.
Not what you put in.
Well, you know what I mean. But
they're going to estimate a full
of the benefit, I should say.
Yeah, they're going to estimate a full retirement benefit.
Okay.
So let's say it's $3,000. If you delay from full retirement to age 70, it's going to increase 8% a year.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's really the first thing to recognize is the only way to maximize the benefit is to know when you're going to die.
Okay.
Okay. And I can tell people with a level of certainty that if you're going to live past 85 or 86, and you're modeling this in a financial plan, most of the time, it makes sense to wait. That said, there's so many factors. So it's a loaded question. Margarita, if you want more help, you can reach us at 800-383-6590, and we can kind of walk you through what makes sense, because this is really a customized option. I know some people say, well, take it at 62. Okay, well, if you're financially independent, Social Security doesn't matter.
Yeah, you can walk away from it.
You can do whatever you want to do. Some people have to take it at 62 so they can retire. Others really need to be careful, because the one thing that happens, once you lock this in, there's not a do-over.
Yeah.
And I can tell you with certainty, I have met individuals who took their benefit early and regret the choice.
Yeah.
They are just locked in. I'm taking it at 62. Well, okay, it's $1,800 a month. It would have been $3,300 a month had you waited.
You know, that's the kind of critical thing is, and one of the things that has to do with this, Roger, is the idea of you talk about your client's individual family health issues. So it's like you this is the kind of information you take in when you do an intake program with somebody so that they can become a customer of Premier Investments in Wealth Management.
We talk about a lot. It goes beyond the numbers. We do a family tree. How old were your parents, your siblings? Like, we try to look and determine what is the likelihood you'll live to age X. And then when we do the planning purposes, we always take it about 10 to 15% past what we expect mortality to be, which puts people into the 90s, because we don't want people to run out of money.
No.
And we explain that to individuals that we want to make this plan very conservative in nature versus, really aggressive.
Okay.
So family tree. And then you're right, medical issues. If you've had stroke, heart attack, cancer, stuff that would shorten your lifespan. And I like to play this trick to not a trick, but play this game. Just say, hey, if you were applying for insurance today, would you get a substandard rate, a standard rate, or a preferred rate? Well, if you got a preferred rate, it means that your life expectancy is longer. If you get a standard rate, it means you're right on track for life expectancy. And if you have a substandard rate, it means that actuarially, you're expected to pass away before mortality. Yeah. Sometimes that can help answer the question of when to do it.
Makes sense.
Do you ever feel like your financial goals are just out of reach? It's time to take control of your future with Premier Investments in Wealth Management, your partner in financial independence. Imagine a financial plan that's as individual as you are. At Premier Investments and Wealth Management, our team of experienced advisors will work closely with you to create a roadmap tailored to your dreams, whether it's buying a home, retiring comfortably, or starting a business. We believe in transparency and education. We'll help simplify complex financial concepts, provide clear guidance, and empower you to make informed decisions. Financial wellness is within your grasp. Visit www.premieriwm.com to schedule a meeting with an experienced advisor today.
You're listening to Premier Investments and Wealth Management program right here on Talk Radio 1190, 1190talkradio.com. Go to premieriwm.com, or if you have questions or want to make an appointment, call 800-383-6590. Doug Wagner along with Roger Abel here answering listener questions. Scott wants to know, do I need an emergency fund in retirement? I recently depleted about 75% of my emergency fund on some home repairs. I've been retired about 3 years now. I'm wondering if you recommend building up my emergency fund again. Since I'm not working, it's not needed to replace income, and I can easily withdraw money from my retirement accounts if I need to. So is an emergency fund really necessary? Roger?
This is a great question.
Yeah, it is.
So the short answer is yes. You should still have an emergency fund.
Okay.
Where it's structured potentially changes.
Okay.
So if we have an individual, let's just use a round number, you have $1 million, and your emergency fund was $30,000, and you've depleted it.
Yeah.
There are many people who said, well, let's go take $30,000 out of my investments and put it in the bank.
Right.
Well, if you don't need the money, you probably paid tax to withdraw the money. Mm-hmm. What I would suggest that people do in that situation is take $30,000 and move it to cash or a cash equivalent. Mm-hmm. So it could be whatever a cash equivalent, CDs, just really safe type stuff within their IRA or 401k, whatever. It's just make it safe.
Yeah.
You've built your own emergency fund, saving up money over time from the money you're withdrawing. That's just robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's moving money from your left pocket to your right. So just think of your money as a big bucket, and we're going to change where it goes. It's part of the reason that when people get to retirement or are retired, we work off of our Premier bucket strategy. Right. And we build this emergency fund in the bucket strategy. Doesn't mean we have to take the money out. And if people don't know what a bucket strategy, it's really just a way to give our money responsibility and how we're going to spend it over the next 1 to 3, 2 to 6, and 6+ years.
Okay. It makes sense, too, because if you're going to replenish this, it's something that you know where that money comes from and then where it goes to back when you're replenishing it again.
Well, and the reason it's important is a lot of people will just say, well, I have $1 million in my 401k or IRA or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That is my emergency fund. Well, it is until the market goes down 25%.
Yeah.
And now you have to sell a stock investment that lost money, assuming it's all in the stock market. That's why we always want to make sure we just have the cash available somewhere so we don't run what's called sequence of return risk. Okay. And sequence of return risk is just being unlucky. I mean, that's why we do planning, is to eliminate luck.
Right.
And hope and all those words associated with that.
Plans are always good, aren't they? He's Roger Abel. I'm Doug Wagner, listening and watching Premier Investments and Wealth Management Financial Program on Talk Radio 1190 and 1190talkradio.com, premieriwm.com, premieriwm.com for Premier Investments and Wealth Management. Listener question from Brian: what should I be asking my financial advisor in our annual meetings? What can I do to prepare to get more out of that time for me?
That's a really good question because client review meetings have changed over 20 years.
Okay. What was it like when you started?
Well, someone came in and you told them how they were doing.
Okay, yeah.
You're doing great. You know, because,
well,
here's why. Internet was still relatively new. People weren't checking their account balances every day. Many people don't realize it, but this iPhone didn't come out until 2008, so you couldn't just get on your phone, check your balance. So it was more about, hey, this is how we're progressing. Well, today, when an individual comes in for review, they already know how they're doing. They check their balance before they came to the meeting. They checked it the day before. I mean, all the information's out there.
Right.
So now it's much more about planning, and I think people can get significantly more out of the review meetings because we don't have to focus on how we're doing. It's more upon the future strategy. So the first thing I think people could do when they meet with their advisor or getting ready to meet with your advisor, send a proactive email and say, hey, here's the things I would like to cover.
Right.
So if you say, hey, I want to cover estate planning, 401k allocation, and income in retirement, send that off, because what you're doing is you're helping arm the advisor with what's important to you.
Right.
So that's the first thing you can do.
Okay.
The second thing you can do is be super honest with your advisor. If you've had like some spending issues, let them know. Mm-hmm. Just be really honest, and then require that you have a plan update. Mm-hmm. So annually we update all the financial plans.
Right.
Why wouldn't we? Once it's inputted, it doesn't take any time.
Right.
So update your financial plan and use that as your scorecard. Last year, this was my probability of success. Mm-hmm. This year, this is my probability of success. Is it better or worse? Mm-hmm. If it went up, well, now how much can I spend in retirement? Okay. And just use that as a little bit of your scorecard. And then, if you have something that you don't like that's happening, let them know. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't want to tell people things they're disappointed in or things that they feel could be improved. Mm-hmm. But as advisors, we don't really know unless people tell us. Yeah. I have a good example. I had a friend of mine took a job, and it's with a really large firm in the U.S., and they do financial planning. Mm-hmm. And he isn't in that department, but he called me and said, hey, just want to let you know, probably going to move this to here. They've really highly encouraged it. I said, I get it. I said, let me ask you a question though. Mm-hmm. Did we do anything wrong? Mm-hmm. He goes, no. He goes, when I retire, it's coming back to you. Yeah. But while I'm here, it's a lot less expensive, and I expected it. You'd want to support your employer. Yeah. If that's how they make money, why wouldn't you want your employer to do better? Yeah. But I wanted the feedback. Mm-hmm. I said, did we mess something up? Yeah. He goes, no, you guys are great. Okay. I said, well, when you leave jobs or you retire, we'll get it back. He joined and said, yeah, you will.
And the other thing too is that, you have this understanding is that I'm going to give you a story from my end. A longtime doctor, actually, we ended up being a friend of mine, very nice guy. And then he retired, and then he was replaced by a physician assistant. And now I have no problem with him. At first, because I had been so familiar with my doctor and he knew everything about me, when this PA came in, they started asking questions, and I took that as what? Why do you care how many drinks I have a week? Really?
Did you tell him the truth?
No, I didn't. That was the whole point. The whole point of this is that I didn't, because I didn't want to. Well, here's the thing. It's like, okay. They said, you realize that I can see in your notes, I have them here, that it says you are an alcoholic. And I'm like, okay, you got me. But the whole point is this. You need to be very open and honest, even to the point where it's like just everything, all the cards are on the table. Because if you don't do that, there is still a chance for failure. And there's a greater chance of failure every single thing you hide from somebody. If they're a professional, if you got a fiduciary plan right there, you've got a responsibility to these people to get to the bottom of every single little thing. You're not prying, you're trying to help them.
The second meeting we have with people, or the discovery meeting, that's really what it's about. Yeah. Trying to find out as much about them as humanly possible, because that's how they're going to get the optimal result. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're right. If you hide stuff from your doctor, it's pretty good to give you a diagnosis. Right. Now, we could be like Jonas, who drinks celery juice the day before his physical, so he can't tell him anything bad, which is completely off the wall. Awesome. But you're right. Like, you have to be open and honest with us, and we're open and honest with you too. Yeah. I mean, we don't sugarcoat it. We tell people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. Hopefully it's good news. It's not always good news.
Right. And you know what? That's the coolest thing. And I mean, really what it comes down to is that when you have that kind of relationship with your wealth advisor, they can help you. It really does help, because they get to know you, what your needs are, what your requirements are, and then they can recommend properly as well.
That's a good point, though, because as a consumer, you kind of have to know what kind of consumer you are too. Mm-hmm. And here's why I say that. There's really two types of consumers that we work with. Mm-hmm. Transactional and relationship people. Right. And our business that we run lends itself towards relationship building. Mm-hmm. There are other firms that are more transactional. Mm-hmm. So we're not always a good fit for everybody. If someone just wants transactions, we're the wrong place. Right. We are. That's how we want. We want to get to know get to know our individuals we work with very intimately. I mean, and a lot of our people we work with at some level kind of become friends. We go on fishing trips and hunting trips and, which is neat. That's what I enjoy about doing this.
Yeah, and that's cool. I really like the way that you put that. Premier Investments and Wealth Management at premieriwm.com. Check them out online. Call for an appointment today at 800-383-6590. Appointments in person, over the phone. They can do it electronically. I meet them at the office. Heck, you meet at the coffee shop, wherever. You're listening to Talk Radio 1190, talkradio.com. Doug Wagner along with Roger Abel from Premier Investments and Wealth Management. Matt asks, my wife and I are maxing out Roth IRAs. I'm close to maxing out my 401k. My wife runs her own small business. Should we open a solo 401k for her or start saving our extra money in a taxable account?
Good question. Congrats. Sounds like you guys are doing great.
Doing a lot of good stuff.
I mean, if you're maxing out 2 Roth IRAs, maxing out a 401k, you're ready to do another one, I mean, that's pretty phenomenal. I wish I knew a little bit more about Matt's age and his wife. But in general, let's just talk about what a solo 401k is.
Okay.
It's for self-employed people. And in general, you're setting up your own 401k. You're responsible for your own benefits.
Okay.
And the question was, should I save it in a 401k or a taxable account? It's hard to tell you exactly which one to do. I would lean towards the solo 401k because most solo 401ks allow either pre-tax contributions or Roth contributions.
Okay.
You put Roth contributions in there and take it out if you really had to. And all those earnings grow either tax deferred and tax free for distributions if it's Roth. And you have higher contribution limits in the solo 401k. You can contribute 100% of your income, and then there's some testing for how much you can put in. Basically, it's 25% of the business's net earnings. So, but you can contribute. So let's say you're a small business and you're showing $20,000 of income. You could contribute 100% of those wage earnings as long as you pay yourself a wage. If you're just all 1099, you're going to be limited to a smaller amount. You can do all the catch-up contributions in that solo 401k. So if you're young and you don't plan on touching this money, you're much better off getting some tax advantage for it versus doing a non-retirement account or a taxable account.
Okay, so what are some of the advantages for a taxable account that are out there?
Okay, let's say you want to retire at 52 years old.
Yeah.
You might want to, not that you couldn't get at that solo 401k, but you'd have to utilize some different tactics to do it.
Right.
Where a non-retirement account, it's basically a third bucket of money that you have that you can go take out whenever you want. So you're retired at 52. A lot of my clients who retire really call it a bridge account. How do we build this account up?
Oh, okay.
Till we get to age 59 and a half and all of our 401k accounts, all of our retirement accounts become accessible. So that's really the question. Hey, Matt, how old are you and your wife? How long till you need this money? If it's money you need in 2 or 3 years, then you probably want to go with a taxable account. It doesn't matter whether you do the 401k, solo 401k, or the taxable. You likely can buy very similar investments that perform the same.
Right.
A lot of people think that performance is different. Performance isn't different if you buy the same thing. What's different is just how the money is actually taxed, and then accessibility to the money as well.
Okay, that makes sense.
In a world filled with financial complexity, who will help guide you toward a brighter financial future? Look no further than Premier Investments and Wealth Management, your partner in financial success. At Premier Investments and Wealth Management, our commitment goes beyond numbers. It's about understanding your unique goals, dreams, and challenges. Our financial planning process is personalized to help you implement strategies designed with the goal of maximizing your outcomes. Whether it's saving for retirement, building wealth, or preserving your family's future, we've got you covered. Our mission is to simplify the complex world of finance and empower you to make smart, informed decisions. Ready to take control of your financial destiny? Visit www.premieriwm.com to get started. Premier Investments and Wealth Management, where your financial independence begins.
Hey, here are the final segment of the program. We're into September now, and this is something that's important. We're getting down to the final quarter of the year. We're near there. And that means that you're going to have to start getting ready to wrap up year end of the calendar year. That means you have to start doing things. What are some of the things that you need to start thinking of as we make our way through September into the end of the year as far as making sure that we do what we need to in order to keep in the straight and narrow.
Man, you're getting ahead of yourself for this year-end show.
Hey,
I mean, it's 4 months away, but let's hit a couple. I think the first thing to do is, and this is a pretty proactive one, is if your goal is to max out a 401k this year, one of the things you can do is log on to your employer plan, see how much you've contributed, see how much you need to contribute to max it out. And so instead of trying to like do it in the last 1 or 2 paychecks of the year, you start to spread it out over 4 months. So if you need to increase. The other thing I've actually started doing is I'm getting tax documents lined up for next year.
Okay.
I mean, sounds wild. Let's just start a folder, because all the stuff is going to come. And here's what typically happens. It all comes and you don't know what to do with it. If you have folders already laid out to do it. The other thing, charitable contributions. People start to think about charitable contributions this type of year. Figure out what you're going to do. If you're over age 70 and a half, you're eligible to do a QCD.
What's QCD?
Qualified Charitable Distribution, which it sends the money directly from your IRA.
Never touches.
To a charity, doesn't get added to your income. If you're under 70 and a half and do it, it gets added to your income. So there's really not a whole lot of tax benefit for most people to do that today. But if you're over age 70 and a half, that's a good thing to do too. If you're turning 73 this year, make sure you're paying attention to your required minimum distributions. Okay. Those are going to hit those. So there's just a couple things people could start to clean up before the end of the year.
Yeah. What really makes sense, though, is it's cool because you're talking about a couple of things. Number one, required minimum distributions and the sequence of, the way you start withdrawal. You try to do that stuff on your own and you're not a professional. You don't know what you're doing. It's kind of like the first time that I decided I was going to put in a new tile floor. And it took me a little while. Thankfully, I had the entire weekend. The family was gone in order to figure out the mistakes I was making. When you're doing RMDs and stuff like that, there's maybe not a lot of room for mistakes.
Well, here's the difference. You were able to rip the tile out.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to fix the RMD mistake.
Yeah.
And it'll go back to the language we've used for a while. You got a result from your tile floor. It wasn't an optimal result. And honestly, it probably cost you more than just going and hiring somebody to do it. By the time you factor in your time, your materials, the mistakes you had to fix, it probably would have been less expensive to just go hire somebody.
Yeah, you're right.
And I'm guilty like everybody else. I am like, I don't try to, not on that kind of stuff, but I'm big into hunting. Like to hunt.
Right.
And have multiple properties, multiple leases. Well, this year I joined a club, 14 people. It's a lot higher fee.
Yeah.
But guess what? I started adding up all the money I spent for this other stuff. My wife's like, that's less expensive.
Yeah.
Even though I feel like it's not because of my sweat equity and I'm working hard at it. She's like, yeah, and you don't have to do anything.
Exactly. Just let the professionals at Premier Investments and Wealth Management, PremierIWM.com. Click on Get Started to answer a few questions. The one-page Premier Vision document, the My Financial Confidence score that you get behind it as well. If you want to make an appointment with Roger or one of the folks over Premier IWM, what's the phone number?
800-383-6590.
Awesome. Let the football continue, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the weeks to come, I'm sure. Thank you very much for watching and for listening here on Talk Radio 1190 and 1190talkradio.com. Until next week, for Roger Abel, I'm Doug Wagner. Thanks for joining.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Premier Investments and Wealth Management and LPL Financial do not provide tax advice. Please consult your tax professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. There is no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect against market risk. All performance referenced is historical and is not a guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risk.